Hello, everyone. This is Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with Paola, and I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and Her Network on Zingo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download Zingo TV app on the respective app stores. The app is totally free. You can find Zingo TV in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, Roku Stick, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today in the house, we have an awesome guest with beautiful knowledge for all women that need, that we must know. So her name is Theresa Russell. So I welcome you and I'll send you a big hug. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Paola, for inviting me. I appreciate you, the invite.
No, I mean, it's like I'm blessed to have you here. And especially with the content that you're going to share with us today about the symptoms of menopause, premenopause, and what to do, how to identify that we might be going through that stage in our lives already. So let's dive into the signs. What's the difference between menopause and I think they call it perimenopause?
Right. Well, perimenopause normally it starts in your late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
So it's something that happens to every woman if you're alive. It's you're going to get it between 7 to 10 years, sometimes even a little bit more before you go through menopause. So perimenopause is the time before menopause. And menopause really is just one day. It's the day that you have went a whole year without your period. That day is called menopause. That's it. One day.
One day.
After that is really postmenopause. But we kind of just say menopause and that kind of incorporates everything because otherwise we'd be like, are you in perimenopause? Did you have menopause? Are you postmenopause? So yeah. So you'll be getting signs and symptoms. And there are some ladies that actually go through the change early. You can go through it surgically if you have issues. Or it can just happen naturally early because I do talk to some women I met 2 women that are 35 and both of them have been through menopause already.
Oh, wow. So how do we know, what are the signs we need to be looking for if we're in our late 30s, early 40s?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, what happened to me just a little bit because I didn't know any of the signs.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew at the end was that my period was very erratic. So I knew okay, we're at the end, I think, because every other month was really bad, like a crime scene was happening. But when that happened, I had to sit there for a minute and start thinking about what were the signs? How did I miss them? Because if I go back at least 15 years or more, the first thing that happened that I could really remember is that I spent a weekend at the beach and I always wear sunscreen. But that particular weekend I came home and I got melasma, which is like a pregnancy mask. That's what we normally call it. So usually you see it on women that are pregnant. It's a hormonal imbalance, but I didn't really put that together with what was happening on my face. And so that's the first thing that happened to me. And then I had some other skin issues happen. I had hyper and hypopigmentation. I got rosacea, and these are years apart. They're not even close together. In 2016, I got tinnitus in my ear, where you get the ringing in the ears. Mm-hmm. That's a symptom, a perimenopausal symptom. I had no idea. So I think I just, maybe because I was busy, and I think that's what happens with most women is you're busy. You either have small kids, teenagers, or you're taking care of older parents. And what happens is something happens, you think about it for a second, but you're busy. I'll think about that tomorrow, and you just keep on going. So we miss all the symptoms, and there's 34 known symptoms for perimenopause.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of them out there, but I think most women now, we're just busy and we don't pay attention. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do is educate women what to look for. What are some of the signs?
And what could we do? Like people that are in the late 30s, early 40s, is there a advice that we should be monitoring or we should be including in our diet, supplements? What would you advise?
Well, I think, I give out a tracker where you can actually just start thinking about what's happening with your body. And I remember somebody that was older than me saying that they were tracking things. And I thought, I don't have time to track. I don't have time to be tracking this stuff. And I don't really like to wallow think about bad things. But I think the best thing to do is, journaling. If you do journal, ladies, just write down the day and just put some things down there. And pretty soon you're going to see a pattern. You're going to see what's happening. I would also start tracking your periods. Like, how long are they lasting? How is your flow? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it really heavy? And I know the last year before I went through menopause, mine was very, very heavy. I have never had to use super tampons. And I was using super tampons with a pad at night. That's how bad it was. It was bad. Yeah.
So, it happens, and we have to. Thanks for sharing, because here we are. It's like sometimes, like you said, you didn't know until you begin to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
So,
you just watch out for, is anything happening with your skin? Do you see anything different, especially on your face? And when I did talk to my dermatologist, he said, he asked me if I was Irish or Scottish, because rosacea normally happens to people that are that background, and I'm half Irish, so that's where I got it from. But yeah.
Wow.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and if you're going to different doctors, because I went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor for my ear, but I was going to the dermatologist for my face. And so then you're going to your gynecologist for other issues. So none of those doctors are talking together. Mm-hmm. So that's why you need to start tracking things and just write things down. It might seem very random. Mm-hmm. Like you got a rash or whatever it might be, just put it down so that you can kind of keep track of that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And bring your notes to each doctor that you go to.
Right. Yes. Something that I found out going through my research is that the doctors in America only go through 1 hour of lecture time for menopause. That's it. Hormones is actually an elective right now. I'm hoping that will change. That's my future for the women coming behind me. Is I think that if you're going in to be a gynecologist, then you really need to know more about the hormones. Yeah.
That's good to know, right? That they have each doctor has the amount of hours invested in hormones, that knowledge and content. So what would you suggest then, like for women out here, like what do you do, like in your service? What do you offer women that go through menopause?
Well, I think that every woman is different. So everybody has different symptoms. So the first thing I would do is really just talk to the person and find out what's going on with them, and just kind of go over the intake form, what are their symptoms, and we start working on how to fix some of them. And what you have to do is really start with one thing first and not get somebody overwhelmed, because when you are going through this, and you're going through it, and I do it, what I offer is going through it naturally.
Okay.
So it's not no hormones. And so when I say everybody is, because people have different symptoms, and some people will have to go on HRT. They won't be able to figure out how to fix themselves holistically. And not everybody wants to do that, because in America, I think that a lot of times people just want to take a pill to get rid of it, whatever it is, because that's what the doctors normally do. If you go there, if you complain about anything, and the first thing they're going to do is give you an antidepressant. And that's usually what your gynecologist is going to give you. And those, and I, it's kind of bad because it might not be that you are depressed, or maybe you do have a little bit of anxiety, but you don't want to take something. You've got to be strong enough not to say you don't want to take it.
That's so interesting that you are sharing this with us, because in some of your posts, I was able to like gather some information. It was very interesting. Like you talked about, if you're going through this, you spend time with your community. Because some women tend to be, let's talk about a percentage of women going through menopause might feel, lonely. There's a loneliness that just, it hits, and they don't know how to get out of it.
Yes.
And it's a percentage. You also talked about fatigue. Like sometimes maybe if you're exhausted, what do you tell these clients that they feel this exhaustion? Sometimes you feel guilty as a mom and wife because you think, oh, I should be doing more.
Right.
You're tired. But it could be that you're going through through this stage of life. So what could you, advise this percentage of the population that might be going through menopause and they're feeling exhausted?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, what happens is, what affects us the most is sleep. So if we don't get enough sleep, then everything else just is downhill, because you have to have that. So I always tell people that I would rather sleep than binge watch a TV show, right? Because you have to get your sleep. Because if you don't, when you wake up the next morning, what happens is, if you're working inside the office and somebody brings donuts in, well, when you're tired, you tend to pick up the sugary things. So you're gonna be tempted more to pick up that donut than if you got all your rest and you're feeling good about yourself. You're not going to go for the donut. And so I have a sleep hygiene program that I talk to the ladies about. Something that I started myself because I knew that I was not getting enough rest. Because all my research, I'm like, okay, now what can I do for myself? And what happened was, my story is that right before COVID, about a year before COVID, I was on a very low level HRT product. And it was because I was sweating profusely, just under my arms, totally wet. And I got in a couple of embarrassing situations. And I'm not a weak woman, but it's bad when you're talking to the president of a company and you are wet underneath your arms and you're not scared to talk to them. You're not uptight, but because you're so hot, you're just sweating everywhere. So I did elect to do that. And then during COVID, when I took the last pill, I didn't know that was my last pill. It was not available anywhere in the United States. So you're not supposed to stop it immediately, like cold turkey. And that's what happened. And my gynecologist was not taking phone calls because he was closing his shop. My primary care physician, he retired. And there I was with nothing, no doctor, nothing. And my hormones were whacked out. I mean, I was just crying over nothing, because you can't just get off of something like that. When I finally got myself together and stopped crying, I'd already been researching midlife in women, but then I had a really deep dive because I have no pharmaceuticals, I have no doctor, so I had to do it naturally. And that's when I decided, okay, that's it. You can only trust yourself. You can only rely on yourself. And that's why I did it.
Wow.
That's why I did it. Yeah.
Wow. It was like being left alone.
It was bad because it was right at the very start of COVID. And yeah. And, and at the same time, one of my coworkers was diagnosed with a brain tumor and sent home to die. And that's when I was crying. I keep a yoga mat right in front of my desk. So I was on all fours, trying to stretch it out. And I just was crying. And I thought, my mom taught me, really what you have to do is look at somebody else that has it worse than you do. And then it kind of puts yourself in perspective. And what I thought about is, what would she do to change places with me? Would she, given a second choice, would she change places? And absolutely, she wanted to live. And there I was crying over my life. And that's when I snapped right out of it. And I was like, that's it. This is the last time you're going to be crying about this. That's it. I mean, you're not doing it again. And once I fixed myself, and got it together, that's when I started realizing that other women were having problems, and I just never really thought about it.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful that you chose to, learn and take the natural way, and then now you're here sharing with us your story, and I bet you'll be able to enlighten and encourage a lot of women out there.
I hope so. I hope so.
To walk through a path that we don't really know. I mean, I'm 39. I'll be 40 here pretty soon, and I don't really know, a lot, but I know it's necessary for, like, to regain, like you said in your post, to regain our energy and our vitality.
Yes.
And because it's doable, it's like you're an example right here to show us that it is doable. I've had the privilege to interview another beautiful woman as well. She does acupuncture, and helps women with menopause as well.
Mm-hmm.
She's, as well, she looks healthy, beautiful hair, thin, and I'm like, oh wow, so it's doable. We just have to educate ourselves.
Yes, and we do. And life is not over, because if we think about it, you're going to be, the average life now is 85. 100 years ago, it was like 52 or 53. It's 85 now for women. So if you go through menopause in your mid 40s and you live to 85, you are actually living longer postmenopausal than you were before. So we do have to learn how to live with, our diminished hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it is doable. And and what I did in 2 years ago, I decided I do like a lot of half marathons, but I never really had a reason to do a marathon. But I have a friend that has a disease called NF. And that particular year, she asked me, she said, hey, would you be on my team? And, we were talking about it, and I said, I need a reason to do a marathon. And if I was on her team, for sure, raising money for NF, I would do it. And so I did. I did the New York City Marathon. And then last year, I did the Berlin Marathon. And this is all after menopause, like I didn't do it before.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what could we tell our audience that might be dealing with sleep deprivation? Like it might be caused because of their, imbalance in their hormones. So what are some of the strategies that they could use?
Well, the first thing that women need to do is your cortisol level. If your hormones are a little wacky, probably 100% your cortisol level is too high. We're in a world that, the phones are never too far from us. We're on the computer a lot, and you can actually do stuff 24 hours now. Back when I was a kid, I don't want to age myself, but, at 12 o'clock on the TV, it would fuzz up and national anthem came on, and that's it. There is no more TV. And now you can binge watch all night long. There's all these streaming devices. And so we're on all the time. We're never off. People keep their phones on now, beside their bed. And, sometimes under the pillow. I mean, I don't know. But so you're always on. And with that excitement, your cortisol level is high. And when your cortisol level is high, it's just like fight or flight. So it's like a bear that is running after you. And if a bear's running after you, cortisol level is going to help you because you're going to be running away from that bear. Mm-hmm. But when you're running away from a bear, all the other hormones are off. So you're not going to be hungry. Your sex hormones are off. Like nothing's working because you're trying to get away from the bear. And so that's what happens when your cortisol level stays high. And if it stays high for too long, you can get chronic cortisol levels, and then you could get Addison's, so that's, something else. So one thing you need to do, lowering the cortisol, and that just means some of the things that you need to do is you need some me time, mommy time. If you've got kids, you got to unplug for a little bit. You need some time for yourself. You need to start a nice night hygiene program, maybe doing some stretching before you go to bed, taking a bath, hot tea, reading, not electronics, but actually reading a book. And I think those things will help you relax, because you do need to be off your phones at least an hour before you go to bed, because the blue screens, these glasses do have the blue block on it. That's why I wear them. But it blocks the blue, levels, because when you're, especially at night, don't ever pick up your phone and just check something real quick. I'm going to check something real quick, because as soon as your eyes see that, you're back awake. You're back awake.
And you're like, oh, look what happened. Look what this people posted. How fun. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
I did a couple years ago, especially during, so it must have been during COVID. One thing that I started doing is making sure that I thought about 3 things every single night that I was grateful for. Because whatever you put in your mind before you go to bed is what you're going to be thinking about. Your subconscious is working for you. So if you watch a scary movie, I mean, who's not woke up with a nightmare because of something you just saw, or, a whodunit book, and, it's a lot of drama in there. You're going to be waking up. I remember I woke up one time thinking, I wonder who killed the person or whatever, so your mind is still, you're waking up and immediately that thought is coming out of your head. But if you go to bed with thinking about gratitude, things that you're thankful for, then subconsciously, those are the good things that are going to be going through your mind when you're sleeping. And you do need to have the deep sleep at least an hour a night. So you have your light sleep, you go your REM sleep, but the deep sleep only lasts about an hour, hour and a half. It's 90 minutes the most. And most women are not getting that 90 minutes in there, because if you drink a lot before you go to bed, you wake up, you go to the bathroom, it starts all over, and your hormones are rejuvenated at night. So that's, the hormones are they're getting rejuvenated or whatever for the next day. So if you're not getting enough rest, then you can't function.
Yes, that's so important. Becoming disciplined, having that habit, like you're asking us, or suggesting to put the phone away an hour before, drinking the hot tea, whatever, it get us ready to go to bed. You said stretching. Is there any particular stretching that you recommend?
Yeah, so I just do like gentle yoga. There is a night, just a 10-minute. Have you ever heard of yoga with Adrienne?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So she has a morning wake up program. She has a night one too. I think they're only like 10 or 15 minutes, but I just like to stretch out my shoulders, my back, lay down, do a downward dog, or lay flat down. I mean, when you get on a yoga mat, it's like, it's all of a sudden you get in a different mindset, because you're like, oh, I'm supposed to stretch now. And so, I mean, I just try to do it, 20 minutes. Not every night. I can't do it every single night. But yeah, especially if I know that the next day I've got a lot going on, your mind is going to be working, like what you have to do. So you need to try to relax your mind, because you don't want to go to bed thinking, oh shoot, I should have done that, or tomorrow I'm going to do this. If you do that, then just write it down on a piece of paper and then get in bed.
Yes. Sometimes that happens to me, where it's like I'm about to go to sleep, and then it's like, oh, like then you remember things to do to write down. But
yeah, that happens to me. And so what I do, I just get right. Like I was packing last week. I was going on a trip, so I was like, I can't forget. And I knew I was going to be thinking about it like 3 or 4 times during the night. So I just got up, put it right in the suitcase, and went right, and I slept good. I was just like, okay, no, I know I'm going to just, because I was like, mental note, you know how you do that mental note in the morning, don't forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I'm curious about one thing, another thing that I read on one of your posts that talked about like women eat less protein usually than
Yes.
men.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we need protein, or like especially through this stage in our lives. Is that, did I
Yes.
understand correct? Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, you want to start off with a good breakfast about an hour to 2 hours after you wake up, unless you're doing intermittent fasting, which occasionally I'll do that, once or twice during the week, where I'll just wait about 15 hours before I eat altogether from the night. But you want to, about an hour to two after you wake up, you want to start off with protein. And you want to start off with like 30 grams of protein, which you can get that from different things. But yeah, it's kind of scary when you go, what, 30 grams? If you start off really with a good protein breakfast, what it does, it actually fills you up. It levels off your blood sugar, so it helps you through the whole day. So when you're eating protein throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, like your it your blood sugar stays even. There's not a lot of spikes. You don't have that afternoon where I hear a lot of people talk about 2 or 3 o'clock, they get really tired. That doesn't happen to me. I don't feel that like lethargic. Now I did years ago. I didn't know what it was, but now when I'm looking back at it, I wasn't eating enough protein either. And you can be vegetarian and eat the protein. You could be a meat eater. It doesn't matter. It does, you know, it's less calories with meat than it is with if you're a vegetarian, because you have to eat more to get that protein count.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm not a meat eater. I can eat meat, but just a little bit. I don't have to have a lot.
Yes.
And I'm like, ooh, it was red flags for me. Like, I better start adding more protein to my diet.
It's hard for me too. I'm the person that if I went to a barbecue, I've got all the sides, and oh shoot, I forgot to get the meat. I'll get a piece. But I'm not a big meat eater. I really had to push myself to start doing that because that did not come naturally to me. Now I know that there's some blood types out there that really they are carnivores. I mean, they want to eat that meat, but I'm not one of those people. But I've made myself. So you can get protein too from like cottage cheese. I mean, I like cottage cheese. I do boiled eggs all the time. So I boil eggs and keep them in the refrigerator a lot. So if I get hungry, then I know just run downstairs, get a boiled egg. It's just a quick snack, but it fills me up and some water.
But eggs, don't they just have a low
Yeah,
percentage?
yeah, they're not as high. They're not as high as some things, but I would rather eat like real food than, I do have protein bars that I will, eat off of, but I'd rather get it from a meat source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good to know. Yeah, it's like something I need to begin to work on my, diet as increasing more protein for sure. So
When you eat more protein, it actually fills you up more, so you don't get those cravings as much for the sugary things or the carbohydrates.
okay. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and carbohydrates are not bad. You have to have them. I like them.
Well, now let's talk about movement too. You say that we gotta be moving, like find time during the day to get the workout.
Yes, and when I start with ladies in my program, I mean, sometimes I get ladies that don't move at all. And so I start them off 10 minutes. And what I do is I just say, walk out your front door, walk for 5 minutes one way, and then walk back. That's it. Your 10 minutes is up. And don't be an overachiever, right? Because I had one lady that did that and she was like, well, I just couldn't do 10 minutes. I'm like, but you're not used to doing anything. So 10 minutes was good. And so, of course, she overdid it, decided to walk, and then went to a Zumba class. And she said she moved like it was the 80s. And then she couldn't move for a week. I was like, I told you not to overdo it. But you know, and I think I like to take people on a slow course and move it in, you know, move it gently into your life so it becomes a habit, and not just tell somebody, you know, you need to be doing this every single day, or you need to be running 5 miles a day, you know, something crazy. I think just getting used to just moving your body, because a lot of times if people think about it, they're not moving hardly at all. Yeah, and I think movement, and I just watched a video earlier today. It's a lady who's 86 and she's still running. She's still running, and she said that the only let's see, her healthcare plan. She says she just has Medicare, and she said, and her, let's see, what did she say? She has no health care besides Medicare. The other part of that was the only thing she has is her running shoes. And she goes, that's all I need. She's 86. I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh. And her thing, they said, if you could give anybody any advice, and she said, just keep moving. And that's what I say all the time.
Yes. I mean, so many benefits from moving, you know, and bringing that habit, applying the habit into our lives, and, you know, keep it going, because we feel better. It's like when
Yes.
we're active, we do feel better.
Yeah. And if you don't have, you know, if the weather's bad, depending on where you live, I mean, just dance in the kitchen when you're making dinner. I mean, just put on music and dance. I mean, if you do that, within 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, a minute, you're going to be smiling, you know, you're laughing, because everybody loves to dance.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, here we go. It brings us into a good mood,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Which is part of this stage in our lives. Mood swings.
Yes.
What could you know, advise us in mood swings?
Okay. So one thing that I did when I couldn't figure out what was happening, when this feeling would come over me, you know, and most of it, I think some of it came from just the sweats, you know, just hot flash or whatever. But this feeling would come over, and it's almost like you know, you're ready to. I just told my husband that if I say the word pause, I put my hand, just pause, I'm going to walk out of the room. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll be back. But when I do that, don't say another word. It's got nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with what's on TV or what's happening. It's just, I'm going to say pause, and I'm going to walk out. And that's what I did. And I'm glad I did that, because, you know, when that feeling comes over you, or you're snapping at somebody, you feel like, you know, you just have to take a second, and you really have to pause, and you need to get away from people. just hold it, because nothing good comes from that. Nothing good. And once you say something, you can't take it back. It's kind of like he taught soccer. He was an assistant soccer guy at one time. So he had to talk to the kids, and he brought a toothbrush and toothpaste, and he put the toothpaste out on the toothbrush, and he told the kids, that's too much toothpaste. Let's try to put it back in. And you can't put it back in. It won't go in the tube. And it's just like our words. Like if we say something, you can't put it back in, because it just doesn't work. So I'm very careful about that.
That's a good strategy.
Yes.
Even for those, you know, that might not be on that perimenopause, menopause stage.
Yeah.
We could all benefit from this strategy. You know?
Yeah. Just take a second. And if you don't feel like yourself, just let people know. Just say, you know, I might be snappy today. I don't know what's happening. It could be the hormones, you know, probably is. But if you just tell people and you're honest with them, then it's just nice. You have better rapport with people.
Yes. And also, you talk about brain fog. Like whenever we're, you know, it's not clear, we don't feel like ourselves. It's part, you know, it's a symptom. What do you advise your clients to do?
Yeah, that brain fog is really it's just one of those symptoms that really affects a lot of people, and it affected me as well. I was in a job one time, and I was told I had a lot on my plate, but they wanted to add something else. I didn't know when I was going to do that, but I will try to do my best. But what they asked me to do was something I couldn't do. I was not trained on that. I didn't know how to do it. And it was bad because I couldn't find my words to explain to my supervisor, like, how are you asking me to do this? Because I was told by the big guy, I wouldn't have to do this. And now you're telling me I have to. And it just got to be a really bad situation. And I ended up leaving that job because I just couldn't deal with it. But I think a lot of it had to do with, when you look back, I know I was going through some brain fog. I couldn't even talk right. I couldn't find my words. I felt like I was blabbering. And it's terrible. But there's a lot of women that feel that same way. So again, that goes back to the cortisol levels, I believe. I think that affects everything. And, if they are going through brain fog, I would just, a couple things that I would do is make sure you're moving your body every day, because you need to get everything moving. You need to be watching what you're putting in your mouth, drinking and food. Like, if you're getting to that point, you need to make some food changes, because I think that you're probably, that's going to help. I'm not saying it's a cure all, but I'm saying that if you're watching what you're eating and you're eating healthy, no sugar, no alcohol, that's going to help quite a bit. Okay. And then getting your sleep. And sometimes if you don't get your sleep, the cortisol is high, but when you don't get your sleep, that also affects the brain fog.
Yeah. In your terms, what is like eating healthy? Because there's different. We can dive into different diets, right? And in your, like, based on your research, what you tell your clients, how would you advise us to begin to improve, what we do in our bodies?
So, first of all, if somebody did want to make some changes, what I would recommend, instead of saying you can't have this, can't have that, is incorporating more fruits and vegetables into the diet.
Okay.
When you're eating more of that, you're going to eat less of the bad.
Okay.
So that's how I start people off, because I think if you say immediately, you can't have fried chicken, you can't, I mean, they're not going to do it. Yeah. I mean, you're setting somebody up for failure. So what I try to do is just, let's incorporate more of the good stuff and eat that first. And then if you have room, you can eat all the junk. Because after a while, when you start eating better, you start feeling better about yourself. Your self-confidence comes up a little bit more. And when you're feeling better about yourself, you're getting your rest. You tend to not make the bad mistakes. Like, I wouldn't go for a donut. Like, if somebody had fruits and vegetables out and they had donuts on the side, even though I love the way the donut smells. I mean, I really love the way the donut smells. But I'm going to go for the strawberries and blueberries.
Yeah, donuts make you feel good for just a little bit, but then after that is over.
Yeah, I love the smell, but anytime I eat a donut, you don't get full on that. And about an hour later, your stomach's growling and you're already hungry, and you just had 300 to 500 calories, depending on what kind of donut you ate.
Yes.
So
incorporating fruits, vegetables.
Yeah, I would incorporate fruits and vegetables. Tell them, depending on, I like to eat fruit in the morning. I like to eat vegetables at night. Fruit's got more of the sugar in it, and vegetables don't. So incorporate more of that. Eat those first, and then, eat the stuff that you want. Then after a while, when you're starting to eat better, I mean, the best diet that's out there, honestly, everything that I read is the Mediterranean diet. It always goes back to the Mediterranean diet, and, the whole foods, the nuts, fresh fish. I mean, It's they've really got it down. I mean, but that's the diet that really is the best. But it doesn't mean that you can't feel good eating other foods. Like I mean, in the morning, sometimes I like to have protein oatmeal. I like to put flaxseed and chia seeds on it. I like to put chia seeds and flax seeds in my yogurt, in my cottage cheese. You know, gives it a little bit of a crunch, which I like crunch. So, yeah.
Okay.
But you can just start incorporating some good things. And when you're eating better, you're just going to feel better and you're going to take care of yourself more when you're feeling better.
Definitely. Yes. Movement, eating better.
Yeah, all the stuff.
Sleeping.
Yes, all the stuff nobody wants to do. But
Yeah.
if you really want to feel, and that's what I tell ladies, like, if you really want to make a change, then I can help you. But you really have to want it. You know, it can't be something that you just think you kind of want. You know, like if you pay for something, you really need to know that that's what you want.
Yeah. I mean, change happens every day. Look at us now, 2024. It's totally different than what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And change is happening anyway, so might as well create the good change
Right.
for our lives. So
Yeah.
yes.
If you want to live, I mean, it depends on what you want in life. If you want to live to see your children grow and have kids so you can have your grandkids and be around and be active. I mean, yeah, I love to go. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I mean, what was I doing? Going on, you know, I don't know. I do all kinds of stuff. I mean, but if there's a big bucket of balls, you know, I'm going to jump in there like a kid because I just love doing stuff like that. Bring it on. I mean, I'm going to be out there playing with the kids. I don't know how long that'll last, you know, but I had an aunt and I remember she was in her 70s and she was on a little kid's bike going down a hill. It didn't even have brakes and she had to like fall off to the side in the grass because it was straight down. She didn't realize it didn't have brakes. And she just got up off the ground. She's laughing. I mean, she just moved every day. She lived a long life. She danced every Friday, Saturday night. She would go out dancing and I was always playing with the kids and she acted so young.
Wow.
And that, yeah, I love it.
Now that you mentioned that story, it is a good time as well, or I'm asking, is it a good time to take care of our bones as well? Is there a supplement we need to be thinking of?
Well, yeah, our skeletal bones right now. So after you're 35, your bones, you know, we're losing bone mass as we get older. So really lightweight, lifting weights is really important for women. I run a lot. So, you know, the pounding on the ground. So I think my legs are okay, but my upper body, I definitely need to be lifting some weights. And I just talked to somebody about that. I don't know if it was yesterday or today, this morning when I ran, but I said that starting June 1st, you know, I had a date. I had a lot of stuff going on in the first part of the year. And I thought starting in June, I'm going to make myself more accountable for more core workouts. And that means, you know, stretching. That means doing lifting weights.
Okay, lifting weights. Okay, thank you for that. And you also talk about anxiety, which it's probably a hard level of menopause. I think for some women who ever deal with anxiety, they have a stronger case.
Yes.
So what do you advise these women who live through that?
Well, that's actually what happened to me when I got off the product, and I couldn't get it. And I never had anxiety like that. You get a little bit when you start a new school or you're going to meet somebody for the first time on a date or something like that. But this anxiety was something like I've never encountered in my whole life. I've never felt like that before. And it was the weirdest feeling ever. And not every woman gets that. And I'm glad for that. The ones that do get it, they know what I'm talking about. And it's a weird feeling that you just can't even describe to somebody. and it's not like a depression or anything. It's just anxiety, and it's just crippling. It can be crippling. And at that point, I mean, you really do need to, take your time, and you actually need to learn how to do some relaxation techniques, some breathing, I teach some box breathing to the ladies, depending on if they have anxiety or not. And yeah, it's important.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we're almost out of time.
Yes.
It went by so fast. So please educate our beautiful audience so that they know where to find you. If anybody needs more information, if anybody's looking for that accountability person, through this stage in their lives, how can they find you? And what like, is it every do you start groups? Is it every 3 months, 6 months? Please guide us a little bit more.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Theresa Lester Russell. And I put Lester in there, and that's my maiden name. And I put it in there because there were so many Theresa Russells. So I was just like, okay, I'll honor my dad. So Theresa Lester Russell. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook. And I just held a summit like 2 weeks ago where I brought on some speakers that talked about all different angles of perimenopause and menopause. But you can find me on there, and I forgot what the other question was that you said.
And like, is it, do you do like groups? Do
Yes.
you do one-on-one? Does it start, like sometimes there are coaches that say, okay, every 6 months or every 3 months, we start a new group. So
yeah, so I do have private one-on-one coaching, and I also do group coaching, depending on what they want, because there's different packages.
Okay. Yes, this is, a journey that we don't have to walk alone. We don't have to do it alone now in 2024. There is so much knowledge out there. There are specialists just like Theresa that could help us. Menopause has had a big impact in my family. My mom had like the anxiety kind.
Yeah.
She struggled. Imagine, 20 years ago, there was hardly, not much
There's not
information out there to help women. And sadly sometimes they dive into that depression. It could ended up in a really bad story, which you don't have to, because there's people like Theresa that could guide us and can help us and see that you can regain your energy, you can regain your vitality even through menopause. So
yeah. No, nobody needs to be suffering alone, suffering in silence.
yes. Do you have a last minute message that you would like to share with a beautiful audience today?
Well, I just want to say that I appreciate you inviting me on here to get the word out, because the next generation, I hope you don't have to live like I had to, because you don't need to suffer. I'm here for you. There's also other coaches out there. Whoever resonates with you, just reach out to them, because nobody needs to be alone.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all very, very much. If you know someone that could benefit from this information, tell them about Theresa. She's on Facebook, Theresa Lester Russell. You can send them to my YouTube channel, Paola Guthrie. They can watch this information so they get to know Theresa a little bit more. But we don't have to do it alone. There's a lot of people out there that are suffering through menopause, the anxiety, brain fog, that fatigue that we were talking about today. And there are strategies, the pause technique. I'm going to tell my husband about it today.
I think I saved my marriage.
There you go. You see, you can work it out and you can keep your marriage together, your family.
That's right.
So, yes. Thank you
so much.
Very much. So this show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Oh, thank you.